Thank God the boss left me. All the fancy girls are teaching me brand new ways to get through. Y'all trying to keep me hanging out. Alright. It's funny looking, huh? I guess.
That's the presidential potty back there.
Oh yeah?
Pretty good size compared to airlines today. After the plane was built in 1954, it was built as a DC-6. The Navy took it, they used it for a year on some secret mission. And they brought it back to Santa Monica where it was built, and it was then converted into a VC-118, which is a military version of a VIP travel airplane. It was used for several years for sending people around the world and around the country. And then in 1961, Kennedy selected this for his airplane. And everything from this bulkhead back was then designed for Kennedy. That includes this chair, which was designed for him because of his bad back. You may know that Kennedy injured his back in World War II when the PT boat that he was commanding was cut in half by a Japanese destroyer. Alongside the chair is the white telephone. That's the hotline to the White House. The communications on that could be scrambled. And there is one telephone here connected through the radio operator's position at the front of the plane. Communicating with the White House, they could then call anybody in the country, anybody in the world he wanted to speak to. By comparison, the current 747 that operates as Air Force One has 82 telephones on it. And 35 of them can have scrambled communications on them. The black radio in front of it is a vacuum tube Holocrafters radio, AM and shortwave bands, so that the president could listen to radio transmissions.
What's that for there?
That's an oxygen bottle.
Oh.
On this airplane, you did not have automatic masks falling down in front of you when you had cabin depressurization. So here you had to get on a mask manually and connect it up to the oxygen bottle. And you could carry that oxygen bottle around with you and walk around the airplane if you needed to. This black phone was used to communicate with the rest of the airplane. You could talk to the pilots on that, you could talk to the chef, and the buttons underneath that control that. These instruments here actually work. They were to keep the president informed about how high he was, how fast they were traveling, what the outside temperature was.
If he was curious of that stuff, huh?
Presidential toys. The press flew in here, or it might have been other dignitaries that would fly along with the president, but depending on what kind of a flight he was on. If he was on a campaign flight, he'd probably like to have the press with him, so he'd get as much coverage as possible. But if it was a diplomatic mission, they might leave the press home altogether and have other dignitaries fly with the president. Sometimes the plane was used by the Secret Service alone, and it flew without the president. In the back is a radio teletype, which the press could use to communicate with their stories. They could send their stories to their news services on that in flight. And it also could be connected up to the White House teletype, and the communications there could be scrambled. Radio operator controlled how that worked. On this side we have a Pullman berth. This can be pulled down and made into a bed. You'll see one open in the Secret Service compartment immediately in front of this. And generally, on the airlines, you find that the front of the airplane is first class, whereas on this airline, first class is at the back. And this is what one of the bunks looks like when it's opened up. There's a ladder in the back, and you use that ladder to get up onto the bunk. Once you got in here, you could close some curtains, and you had privacy. You could then take your clothes off and store your shoes and your clothes in that rack there, and then buckle yourself in. I don't know how well I'd sleep if I were buckled in, but I guess in a pinch it would pass. Now there are two bunks here, one on either side. And I guess the most senior Secret Service agents got the bunks, and the others had to sleep in a sitting position. We got two lavatories here, took care of the whole back of the plane except for the president. He had his own. And this is the kitchen. I had an apartment once that had a smaller kitchen than this. And as far as airlines are concerned, this is a pretty good sized kitchen. Because generally airlines don't prepare food in flight. It's prepared on the ground and then just heat it up. But here they had to prepare the food in flight. So they've got a 3-burner stove. You've got an oven under here. Functions. You could bake a cake in there if you wanted to. Got hot and cold running water. You've got 2 sinks. You've got 2 refrigerators, one in the back corner and one up here in the front corner. You've got hot and cold drink dispenser units here. So if you wanted a cup of coffee, all you had to do was come in here and push a button. No worry about the coffee spilling over in case of bad weather. For other liquids, were hot cups here would be plugged in and heated up. In the back corner, we've got a 50-pound toaster. I'm not sure why moving around in flight. I think they could have anchored it to the counter just as well. It was in this compartment, and you can see that this is certainly not nearly as comfortable as the back of the plane is. There's another bunk that would pull down from here. There are 4 altogether on the plane.
Backup crew compartment.
This is the crew's office up here. The first seat you pass on the left when you come in is the radio operator's position. The radio operator spent more time dealing with the president, the Secret Service, and the press than he did with the pilot and co-pilot. They did their own communicating. Over there, the top panel controls the scrambler with the radio and with the teletype. On this side of the airplane, we've got the navigator's position. The navigator is strictly not needed within the United States because there's enough radio aids that help the pilots, and they can determine their own position. But if you're traveling overseas, you needed a navigator. So he had radar here and a radio altimeter, and Loran helped him to determine his position. This is state-of-the-art for the 50s and 60s now. Presently, it's a little box about this big. It tells you your position automatically. This one, you interpolated lines on a screen and you plotted your position on a chart. And that's where you were 10 minutes ago. Up here is a periscopic sextant. The navigator would use this to measure the altitude of the sun, the moon, and the stars, so he could determine his position when he was not over land. We've got the pilot and co-pilot set up in the front, and the flight engineer sat in the middle. The flight engineer's job was primarily to control the engines. In back of the pilot's seat, we've got the racks of radios. On each level, we've got a receiver and a transmitter. Each one of these two ones is vacuum tube operated. Okay. You know what vacuum tubes look like? Right? These are vacuum tubes. They draw a lot of electricity. They generate a lot of heat, and they're very heavy. Each one of these boxes weighs about 50 pounds, and this is what the technology looks like today.
Wow.
Why?
Oop. Let me look in the pot.
You might want to take a picture of this picture down here when you go out. That's an analog cockpit there. Each dial, each gauge is separate and independent from all the others, and they're all operated off directly off the units that they're monitoring. This panel down here is a bunch of computer screens.
That's today's.
This is today's. This is out of an MD-11. Now Douglas is the same manufacturer that built this plane. And this is a McDonnell Douglas MD-11 cockpit. And this is all digital display. So this is all controlled by computer. So whereas here it looks a lot simpler, you can change each one of these panels to display different instruments on it. So it really is levels of complexity better than this airplane. One advantage of this airplane is that each instrument operates alone. Here, all the instruments are operated by the computer. And if the computer fails, you lose all your instruments. So computers are very important in this instance here. This is the way the airplane looked when it was in service for the presidents. Here's a picture of Colonel James Swindoll. He was the first pilot. Have a nice day.
This is the way out. You know what I mean? I think that's the stealth. But back it up, Ernie. Another gunman in the back. Can't see his face. Side like I showed you, on the bottom. See his feet in the air. And in there. Huh? Why? That's pretty nice.
Why is this?
Supposedly ready to go if you had to, though, right? No? Little preparation.